we're going to break down the one night, the one single phone call that completely changed India's strategy against China forever.
So it all comes down to this one single sentence, a message from the Prime Minister delivered to his army chief right in the middle of a super tense standoff. Do what you deem appropriate. Sounds pretty straightforward, right? Well, let me tell you, it was anything but simple.
That one phrase, it literally unlocked a total overhaul of India's military playbook. But, to really get why it was so powerful, we need to rewind. Let's go back to the start of that night, because this whole thing unfolded minute by agonizing minute.
All right, so picture this. It's late August 31st, 2020. We're in the freezing cold, high up in the Himalayas, and things are getting tense fast. The Indian Army's Northern Command, they are on red alert.
Okay, look at how quickly this all went down. At 8:15 p.m., boom, 4 Chinese tanks are spotted. By 9:30, an hour later, the Chinese general says, okay, we'll stop. But not even an hour later at 10:10, those tanks are still rolling forward. That promise? Yeah, it was totally empty. In just about 2 hours, this thing went from a border incident to a full-blown national crisis.
So you're probably thinking, why didn't the general just do something? Well, here's the thing. The rules of engagement were completely different depending on the border. See, on the Pakistan border, it's pretty clear-cut. Commanders on the ground have the autonomy to respond. But the China border? That's a whole different ballgame. It's a de facto line, not a hard border, and the protocols are super strict, all designed to stop an accidental war from breaking out. You want to fire even one shot? You need clearance from the very, very top. So you've got Chinese tanks advancing. The local commander's hands are totally tied by protocol. What happens next? The Army Chief himself gets on the phone to the highest levels of government with one simple, urgent question. What do you want us to do?
Think about that. For 2 whole hours, 120 critical minutes, the Indian military was basically frozen, stuck in limbo. And this wasn't a screw-up, It was the system working as designed, a system built for caution. The problem was, China knew this, and they were using that very system against India in real time.
And then the order comes through. But it's not attack or hold your ground. It's that phrase, do what you deem appropriate. Now, this was a massive conscious political move. In that one moment, the Prime Minister transferred the entire authority and the responsibility from the politicians straight to the generals. The rulebook was literally thrown out the window, right in the middle of the crisis. That night served as a huge, brutal wake-up call. The top brass in India had this sudden realization, wait a minute, we're not trying to prevent a war here, we're already in one. It was just a totally different kind of fight, and the terrifying part was they had no playbook for it. And that brings us to this idea of gray zone warfare. It's a term you hear a lot, and frankly, China has become the master of it. The whole idea is to get what you want, to gain an advantage, but to do it in a way that always stays just below the threshold of an actual conventional war. So that tank advance, that wasn't the first shot of a war. Oh no, it was a perfect textbook gray zone move. Here's a great way to think about it. A punch in the face, that's war. It's obvious, it's direct, and you know exactly how to respond. But gray zone warfare, that's like someone just constantly poking you with the tip of a pen. It's not really a punch, but it's super irritating, right? It's designed to provoke you, to make you overreact. And that's exactly what the goal was here, to create confusion, to make India hesitate, and maybe even drive a wedge between the military and political leadership.
And look, it's not just about rolling tanks across a line. It's so much more subtle than that. We're talking about all kinds of tactics, sending little patrols into disputed areas, building new roads right up near the border, suddenly publishing new maps that claim Indian territory as their own, even going so far as to rename villages. See, each one of these things, on its own, seems kind of small, almost deniable. But when you put them all together, you see a clear pattern of aggression that's just incredibly tough to fight back against without starting a major conflict.
So that night, August 31st, that was it. That was the final alarm bell. It laid bare the fact that India just didn't have a clear, written-down plan to deal with this kind of stuff. So what did they do? Well, they went and created one. And this is what they came up with. A new 5-step playbook, kind of like an escalation ladder built just for these gray zone situations. Step 1, detect what China's doing and immediately expose it with proof. Don't let them operate in the shadows. Step 2, actively push back. Don't let these little incursions become the new normal. Step 3, start imposing cost on them, right there on the ground. Step 4,
Widen the pain. Hit back in other areas. We're talking cyber, diplomatic, economic. And the final, crucial step, control the escalation. You do all this while making sure you don't accidentally tip over into a full-blown war. Now, a playbook is great, but you need a team to run the plays, right? So they created this new group, the Gray Zone Crisis Cell. And just look who's in it. We're talking the absolute top tier of government. You've got the military and intelligence chiefs, the external affairs minister, and, this is super important, the head of the Defense Cyber Agency. Their whole mission is to get everyone on the same page during a crisis and launch a fast, coordinated response across all those different domains.
So, let's bring this all back down to the ground. What does this actually mean for the next commander? The next guy who looks through his binoculars and sees tanks rolling towards them in the dead of night. It means one thing. The confusion, the paralysis of that night on August 31st, it's gone. It's been replaced by pure, simple clarity.
Basically, this new playbook gets rid of the need for that frantic 2-hour wait for a phone call. I mean, let's just imagine that night happening again, but with these new rules. The general on the ground would already have his answers. He'd know exactly what his goals are for the next 2 hours, the next 4, the next 6. He'd have the green light, pre-approved authority to act right away, just like his counterparts on the Pakistan border. That paralysis that China took advantage of, poof, it's gone.
So in the end, that crisis back in August 2020 really forced India to forge a new, much stronger strategy, one that's actually built for the messy, ambiguous fights of this century. But it leaves us with one last big question to chew on. Has India actually figured out how to counter China's playbook? Or did they just play the first card in a brand new and maybe even more dangerous game in the Himalayas?